Hello viewers, welcome to another new video. In this video I'm going to explain how to connect database properly. So most of the case I got request on get issue from the client, database is not connecting properly, project is not running properly, and there is an error. So I'll first run the demo project, so demonstrate the issue and fix the issue. Then I will jump to the main project, school management project, which is the complete ASP.NET MVC project, and then I'll demonstrate another issue and fix the issue accordingly. So summary is at the end of this video you'll learn how to run the project with connecting database properly. So I ran one demo project, CRUD operation project connecting SQL Server. So project is running and try to connect SQL Server. So I am pretty sure project is trying to connect the SQL Server but did not connect properly because I intentionally update the connection string with the wrong SQL Server name. So let's see what error it's showing. So as expected, an unhandled exception occurred while processing the request. So a network related or instance specific occurred while establishing a connection to SQL Server. So SQL Server connection issue, so we have to take care of it properly. So first you have to check your SQL Server. So I already installed SQL Server and here is my client SQL Server Management Studio. So you have to check your SQL Server database name, SQL Server name. So by right clicking to your server and go to the properties, you can get the name, server name. So here is your SQL Server name and copy. You can copy here. Also using SQL script you can get your SQL Server name. So we have a SQL Server name here, and if we go to the my project and application set app setting.json file, then we have two different connection string. So let me explain why two different connection strings. So first one is using Windows authentication. So there is no username, password, and second one is using SQL Server username and password. So this username for SQL Server and password for SQL Server. So and if we check the connection string, we have used second connection string. We have to go to the program.cs file con MSSQL. So and server name is wrong, so I have added additional D here. So if I remove the D and update the server properly, then it will connect properly for next build and run. So now I will explain why to connection string and what is the purpose. So first one is Windows authentication, second one is SQL Server authentication, how you can get the SQL Server authentication username and password. If you successfully log in, let me just disconnect. So file, connection explorer, you can connect using Windows SQL Server authentication, Windows authentication. If I connect using Windows authentication, then here is the security folder and login. Here is the SA login dev. You can create your new login accordingly, and you have to set your SQL Server authentication, password and confirm password, and login name. You can uncheck and force the password policy unless you have to set the long password. So you can set accordingly. So here is the username and password. So remember, this authentication work for local project connection string running from the SQL Server, running from the Visual Studio and locally. But if you deploy into the IIS, then definitely you have to use this username and password connection string, because Windows authentication not work with the IIS. So better to use using SQL Server username and password. So I hope you understand the difference between two connection string. Now I'll show how to fix the network related instance issue. So this is the issue we faced our last time running. So this time project is running properly without any issue. So your server name is if you pass the server name properly, so this is your SQL server name. So how you can get your server name? Two way you can get your server name: using SQL query or right click into the server and properties and your server name. Then additional parameter, you have to set your database name, username, password, and trusted certificate true for .NET SDK 8 and 9 version. This is additional version, unless you will get another error. So this is first one error, a network related instance, and how you can connect and update SQL's connection string, and how you can update your connection string and connect the SQL server into your application properly. So now I jump to the second issue, like as it is code first project. So if you do not migrate database, but you already create database, then there will be issue. So here is our another project, school management. We have already connection string, con MSSQL we have used using SQL Server username and password, and database name is school MS. So if we check the migration, we already have a migration, and connection string we already used the con MSSQL connection string. But if you create database manually, let's say I'm going to create a new database, school MS manually. So we have empty database, create just database name. But if we now run the project, then we'll face an error, because system will create database and execute the migration and create the database. But if you break the rule, if you create the manual database, then the system will encounter a error, because once your system is going to create a database name is school MS, then it will conflict and throwing an error. Let's see what happened. So project is trying to loading. It is checking a database and copy, and if we try to log in into system, a network related instance. So okay, so system, so we have to check the connection string first. So MSSQL, so yes, server name is wrong. So first we have to make sure the connection string properly. So now connection string okay. If we run the project now, see, here is the issue. So as we can see, here is the issue: invalid object name default identity option. So project is encountering this issue because project is trying to create the database, but we already create database manually. So what we have to do to fix this issue? So we have to remove the database from the system, manually created database. So there is no SQL MS management system into our database. I just deleted the database. Now if we run again, so hopefully this time localhost will connect the SQL server and go to the login screen, because no seed data has been created. So if we go to the login screen, so as expected, so project is running with localhost 5005, and hopefully this time if we click the login screen, it will create from first dummy data and go to the dashboard. So it is the school management dashboard. successfully logged into the system. So summary is, if as it is code first project, so this is the entity framework code first project. So code first, if you ask me what is the code first, so code first is we just create the entity first and the model first. System will create a database once it will run first time. But if you create database manually, then system will encounter an issue. That's why you are getting this issue. So request is do not create any database. And here is the full guideline. First you have to make sure your Visual Studio and .NET SDK 8.0, and if you successfully build the project, just make sure your connection string properly, proper server name, username and password, and you have to pass this connection string name, as this application is supported multiple database like SQL Server, PostgreSQL and MySQL. So one of the string connection string name, so these are the string name, one connection string name, you have to pass here DB connection string name. So I pass the second name, you can choose third, fourth, fifth based on your needs. So if you properly pass the connection string and update this string based on your local instance, then run the project, it will automatically create first create database, then create table, and then execute the dummy data, and system will log in into the login screen and default login super admin credentials here. Before running the project, you can change according to your settings. So these are the guidelines for how to connect SQL Server or how to run a .NET ASP.NET MVC full stack project with .NET SDK 8 properly. So you can face different issue like SQL Server connection issue and code first issue. So you have to handle those things properly. And another things, if your SQL Server is not configured SQL Server authentication, then you have to set configure this manually. Then you go to your SQL Server and right click and go to your properties and go to the security tab. So by default it will Windows authentication mode, but you have to set SQL Server and Windows authentication mode if you want to log in using username and password, because later you want to deploy this application into IIS. Then into IIS, make sure that you have to publish using SQL Server username and password, not Windows authentication, unless you will encounter an error. So these are the issue what we explained in this video. So summary is, if you have a complete ASP.NET MVC project, let's say school management project, and just you have to unzip the project and open this project using Visual Studio latest 2020, and make sure you have already installed .NET SDK 8.0. How you can check the .NET SDK? Go to your PowerShell and type like .NET version. Sorry, I already installed the latest version, but if you want to check the other version, type .NET info. So here is the details information. I already installed 8, 9, 5, 6 and 8 some different version. So this project is running using .NET SDK 8.0. How we can check the 8.0? Just double click in the project name. Here is the target framework 8.0 and NuGet packages. Here is the details NuGet packages. Just closing the video. Before closing, let me just summarize the video. So our agenda was how to connect SQL Server properly, and how to connect and how to run the code first project properly if you face any unexpected issue. So make sure you have installed SDK, .NET SDK 8.0, and you have installed SQL Server, unless you have two options for connecting SQL Server. First option is using Windows authentication, second option is using SQL Server username and password. You can get your SQL Server username and password from the security tab and log in. If do not create, you can create your new username and password, and that username and password you have to pass here, username and and password. So if you successfully update the connection string, then build and run the project. Make sure you do not create the database, let's say school management system, manually, unless if you create the manual database, system will encounter an error. So if you create manual database, then just delete the database and run the project. Once you run the project, the system will first create the database, then SQL script, then generate the dummy data, and using default authentication, default credential using username and password, which is admin, and password is 123, you can successfully log into the system. And here's the details features. So I will share the live link so that you can check the feature if you are interested. Thank you for watching the video. See you in the next video.